On that note, I also want to talk a little bit about how I think generative AI can be used for supporting the reviewing and editing process. Now, I think the peer review system in academia today is broken. It's highly problematic. So I just looked. I have 8 papers that are either currently under review or were received a final decision in the last 2 months. The average time of review for those papers was 121 days. The minimum was 56 days, and the maximum, which is still under review, is 252 days. So the average time I've spent waiting on a decision is at least 4 months. And often, even when I do receive reviews, they are of quite poor quality. So I received 8 reviews in the past 2 months. Of those 8 reviews, only if I were to like rate on a scale of 0 to 10, I would probably only say 2 of those 8 reviews would receive a score above 5. And that has nothing to do about whether it was a positive review or not. I'm just referring to in terms of the quality of the review. Did they understand what my paper was actually about? Did they provide meaningful feedback? Or is it just one sentence that says, this paper did a good job, or this paper didn't think about this concept, so reject or accept? The quality of reviews has diminished significantly. Again, as with writing a paper, I do not think AI should supplant the role of the reviewer. We need to have human eyes on papers, and we need to have that kind of critical and domain specific analysis of the quality of the topic. But let's reduce the load on peer reviewers by having AI check some of those extra things that are outside of, does this fit within the domain scope of what we're submitting this paper to, this journal? And does it make logical sense? That should be the role of the domain expert. And let's leave things like, is the paper well written? Does it meet the word length restrictions? Does it have plagiarism issues? Let's leave those questions to something that can be more automated. And so now we're asking less of our reviewers. We're not giving them a list of 20 different criteria to evaluate the paper on. We're saying, look at this paper. Does it fit the scope of this journal? Is it logically sound? And that is what you're reviewing on, not all of these additional things. I receive so many reviews nowadays, or see so many reviews that don't ever mention those aspects, the scope fit or how logically sound, but they focus on things like, oh, you didn't format the references correctly, or oh, the journal stipulates that needs to be between 5,000 and 7,000 words, and yours is 7,500 words. That does not need to be within the scope of what the reviewer is doing. So I think AI could really help in that regard, being incorporated into that process. Then looking at copy editing, same thing when you reach that point as well. Some journals do that process very quick. The publisher MDPI is particularly well known for having a basically 1 day turnaround between when a paper is accepted and when it's published. But I also have experienced a lot of journals where the process will take months between when you have your paper accepted and when that actually shows up in the journal. And again, when we're talking about the publish and perish cycle, when we're talking about tenure track positions and you only having a certain number of years to show that you're publishing sufficiently, when we're talking about having annual reviews that are contingent on how many publications you have, waiting an average of 121 days, 4 months for the review, just the first round review, by the way, and then another 2 months for copy editing. Well, that's half a year right there that it's just been spent sitting with a journal. So anything to speed up that process by identifying, again, you want human eyes at all stages looking at this paper, but can AI help identify obvious mistakes and speed up that process so that we're not paying somebody just to do a spell check? Those kinds of things would significantly speed up the process. But again, we always have to think about the drawbacks with this. Does it introduce potential bias? We don't want AI doing too much. That's why I say keep human eyes on the AI models at all times what it's doing and make sure that there's not this bias creeping into that process of revising, changing the meaning of words, changing the context of what's being said is very important as well.